Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Molly,
I'm Michael.
and today we're excited to be talking about the new season of the Ultimatum, season 3, which has just aired its first 5 episodes. So, we're going to be breaking down the couples and just our thoughts on them and then also with the trial marriages and the unexpected exits. So, shall we just get right into it?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, Michael, first, what were your overall thoughts on the season so far?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a big improvement over season 2, which I really did not love. Season 2, just to me, it felt like none of those trial marriages had any chance of turning into a real relationship. So it was just it felt kind of pointless. But this season, we do have a couple that I think have potential. I don't know that they're going to turn into anything, but I think that I certainly have more hope for that than I did for any of the couples on season 2. So, yeah, I think I enjoyed the first 5 episodes here. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously the point of this show is when you're in your trial marriage, like to really try to test it out. And I felt like in season 2, as you were saying, it really wasn't like they kind of just were very platonic and didn't seem like there was even a potential in that. So it made that season kind of boring, but obviously worked out for those couples in the end because then they stayed together versus in this one, because these couples are seeming to be maybe more embracing that means probably more downfalls for the couples in the end. But that makes for some good TV for us. So I'm not complaining. Um, and I feel like, I mean, anyone who goes into the show, you're already having relationship troubles in that sense. So maybe not the best place to be, but it's entertaining because of the toxicity that we're seeing.
Yeah,
Um,
we love a good toxic relationship on
yeah,
reality TV, don't we? Like, just
exactly.
I want to say thank you to these couples for having terrible relationships that shouldn't be together. We
I know.
appreciate it.
Yes, for sure. And I think we should just get into the couples then. So for the original couples, we have 6 couples who come into it. But obviously some of them have left. But to start, we have 6.
No
Um,
spoilers.
yes, spoiler. Um, and for the first couple, let's go through is JR and Zaina. So, I feel like coming into it, like they live together, like they've been in a steady relationship, it seemed like. But Zaina issued the ultimatum on JR saying that she really wants to get married. She's 32, ready for starting a family and going to the next step. And JR is just not to that place. So obviously now they're here and seeing how it's going to work out for them. But what were your thoughts on them as a couple?
Yeah, this is one where I think that if I guess technically, if they both can get over what the other one did during their trial marriage, and if they both decide that they don't want to be with their trial marriage partner, I think I could see them remaining together and staying together. I think that they seem to have a pretty steady, strong relationship going into this compared to some of the other couples, at least. So I do think that there is a lot of potential for them to remain together.
Yeah, I agree, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess, of was when they come back together of what happened because we'll get into it in a little bit, but with their trial marriages happening, JR is exploring things. So we'll have to see if Xana's able to forgive him or just overall like how the conversations go. You do see previews of them crying or like Xana crying. There seems to be some emotional stuff happening in the
Yeah.
future on the episodes between them, and we'll have to see what that all means. And then we have Nick and Sandy. So Nick has issued the ultimatum on Sandy, and he's older than her, ready to settle down. Sandy's not. And this couple, I feel like to begin with, was never strong. So it makes sense that they came into this. It just seemed like they were not on the same wavelength. And I don't know. It didn't sit right that like the conversations that they were having even like I didn't totally see it. Obviously, we're also only seeing what's edited and shown to us. but I think that if anyone breaks up, I think that they're breaking up. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, they're not staying together.
Yeah.
No way are they staying together. I mean, like, I know that technically we're just kind of supposed to be talking about, like, the period right now before they go into their trial marriages, but based on what happened in the last episode, there is no shot that the 2 of them are going to get back together after this. I would be shocked.
Yeah. I don't know. It would be
And there's a
crazy, but I
10-year
feel
age
like
difference too. Like, I just feel like
yeah.
there's so much that 11 years age difference, really. I just feel like, yeah, there's so many red flags. Red flag, red flag.
Yeah. So we'll have to see, but I also predict that they break up. Our next couple is Caleb and Mariah. So I felt like coming into it, they were pretty uncontroversial for the most part, besides the fact that Mariah just seemed pretty young and issuing the ultimatum. And she's just saying that she's ready, but Caleb's not yet. Or Caleb thinks that Mariah's not really fully like at that place to really say it yet. But obviously, they're here. The ultimatum was issued. They're in the show, and I like them both. So I am rooting for them. I think that they can overcome certain issues that they were having in conversations potentially once they get back together. But for right now, like I know it's jumping ahead a little bit, but for right now where they are, I feel like they were in a decent spot. What
I
about
really
you?
like both of them too. I think that they're probably my favorite couple of this group. I think that they both I mean, I feel so bad for Mariah in particular, but I really do like Caleb also, and I hope that they stay together. I think that they're a really cute couple, and I would love to see them last outside of this as well.
Yes, agreed. Well, next up we have Scotty and Arya. So them, I feel like that they're an interesting couple to me. Like I do see it, but then at the same time, I feel like we haven't gotten a ton. Like I mean, obviously we don't see everything about the relationship, but I feel like we've seen more issues that they bring up and what they talk about with each other versus like things that they like about each other. But they do highlight positives at some points too. But overall, I think that they can make it work. But it's gonna also take some talking through things once they get back together after trial marriages. But I like them like individually. I think they're like good people, so I want to see them happy. But I don't know if that's with each other or not. What about you?
Yeah, I feel like we've seen the cracks in this relationship from early on when they were at their first kind of like gathering, whatever they call it, with when they were at a bar with all the couples. And Scotty was talking with Zaina, and then Arya went up to them and, yelled at Scotty for just right in front of her, like, being so touchy feely with Zaina. And Scotty was really trying to downplay it and didn't understand why Arya was upset. And I just feel like that is probably very emblematic of a lot of arguments that they've had. And Scotty just kind of, I hate to use the word gaslight because that's very overused in reality TV, but a little bit of gaslighting and trying to make it seem like she just overreacting. And, we saw it right in front that he was doing that. And that's obviously going to be hurtful to Arya. So, not that he was necessarily wrong for doing it, but I think that he should have acknowledged when she was upset and said, you know what, sorry, you're right. I shouldn't do that. I won't do that again, rather than getting upset with her. So, yeah, I feel like we've seen a lot of cracks in their relationship, and if I had to take a wild guess, I don't think that they're going to end up together at the end of this.
Yeah, I know that conversation or seeing that when Scotty was touching or holding hands with Zaina and right in front of Arya, like I would feel awkward too. Like I would be like, yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing that. And then Scotty is like, well, I'm trying to be in this experience. Like, oh, also forgot to mention that Arya's the one who. Oh no, sorry, Scotty's the one who's issued the ultimatum on Arya,
Mhm.
So that means like Scotty wants to marry Arya. So then the fact that he's then touching someone else, like in that moment, like right after you break up with someone, like that you're not even really breaking up essentially. The show you're breaking up, but like it's a trial.
They call them their ex during the
Yeah,
show,
you call
yeah.
them your ex, but it still is an interesting breakup. It's not a full breakup.
Yeah.
So then that also hurt Arya because she's like thinking they're together or like he's in it and then he's not. Like that's obviously going to be hurtful for her as well. So I think in that situation, obviously it's tricky because like they're your ex at that point, but it's still like out of respect. You shouldn't be doing that right in front of their
Right, I
faces.
think, like, at that point especially, I think all of these couples should be going into it under the assumption that it's at least just as likely that you're gonna end up staying with your partner at the end of
Mhm.
this, if not more likely. So, I feel like you do have to, you know, act with a certain amount of respect towards them and, taking advantage of the experience while also not shoving it in their face.
Yeah. For sure. Well, next up are two couples that have now left the show, but we'll talk about them briefly, just our initial thoughts on them. So, first up was Micah and Chanel. So, Chanel had given Micah the ultimatum that she wanted to get married, and Micah was not committing yet, but because he was saying it wasn't the right time. When anyone says it's not the right time, I feel like they weren't what I saw, it seemed like they didn't have total issues. It just felt like timing wise for them. So
Mhm.
it makes sense to me that they ended up leaving together and not wanting to do the trial marriages. Also, it felt like they weren't totally invested in dating the other people when they were on other dates with people in the first place. It seemed like they were always thinking about each other and just talking about all that kind of stuff too. So, I mean, it's sad to see them go, but happy for them if they're still together.
Yeah, I really liked that one moment at the changeover when Chanel was picking Dave and Micah just turned to Dave and said just to take care of her and treat her
Mhm.
well. And I was like, oh my God, that's like the sweetest moment that I've ever seen on one of these shows, I feel like. And it was just you could really, really tell that they did love each other, or they do love each other. And probably were really even at that point second guessing whether they really wanted to be there and go through this, or if they, because sometimes, I mean, we saw this on season 1 where one of the couples got engaged at the changeover and then left the show. And I think sometimes it just takes this moment of realizing, oh my god, I'm about to potentially lose them, to really realize what you have and then appreciate it and realize that you do want to spend the rest of your life with them. So it's cute, and yeah, I think that they absolutely, I would not be surprised in the least if at the reunion they were still together. Oh, I guess we're probably not going to see them at the reunion, but maybe we'll get a little title card or something saying whether they're together or not.
I feel like they might bring them back to the reunion. Like they were part of the season.
I think it depends whether they, what terms they left on.
That's true. Okay, fair. Well, we'll have to see. I haven't really seen that much on online
No, I
conversations
don't
about
think they. Yeah, I don't think they're
Micah,
allowed to
Chanel.
say.
Yeah. So I haven't really heard anything from them, but I have heard stuff from Vanessa. So our next couple, Vanessa and Dave. Um, we saw, I feel like, in their relationship that there was certain concerns that Vanessa was having with Dave, but Vanessa was issuing the ultimatum and just wanting commitment from Dave. He wasn't ready yet. And then I think also what you were saying is when couples will sometimes will see like them talking to someone else, like they realize like in their head, like, oh, I messed up here. I really think Dave had that thought like when he was seeing Vanessa with Nick and
Mm.
just overall like dating other people that Dave was like, I can't lose her. And like having that feeling, and that definitely played into his experience of it. Like Vanessa, it seemed like she was putting in her effort, putting in the effort to really experience it, even though she was the one to give the ultimatum. Like she seemingly, until she left, seemingly was in it and wanting to try a trial marriage, but then left the show abruptly as we see it. But overall, like I think I'm happy for them as long as they work through things, talk through things, I think that they could be a solid couple. And obviously, things that go on behind the scenes, we're not seeing everything. So, definitely, there's more to know about that, which is what Vanessa has been alluding to in her TikTok, saying, "Oh, the full story is going to be coming out at some point, but she can't share anything yet." So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was kind of, like, funny in a little bit of, like, a morbid way when Vanessa like, the last thing we hear from her is when, Nick is, like, kind of freaking out a bit, and then she's like, "I'll be here for you. I'm here. Just talk to me if you need me." And then, like, the next scene, we see that she's left overnight.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, or maybe you won't be here for him."
No.
But, yeah, no, I mean, I definitely kind of got friendship vibes anyways from Vanessa and Nick, like, and I think if Nick was really fully in it, maybe things would have been different, but, like, I just kind of felt like she was there as almost like his therapist for the time that they, were going through the trial marriage. So I don't know that that was ever going to be anything, anyways. So might have been a waste of our time to watch it, regardless if even she had stayed. But um, yeah, I mean, I feel like we should just get into
Yeah.
the big twist here that we saw. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like we didn't get a great sense of Vanessa and Dave's relationship in the short time that we saw them. So hard to tell whether I think they'll be together or not still.
Yeah, for sure. So we already have briefly mentioned it, but Vanessa and Dave and Mike and Chanel both leave overnight. So what do you think about that? And do you think what was the real reason you think was why they left the show?
I think there's a lot more to the story that we are not being told on the show, which wasn't really a lot by itself. I mean, we just got a little black title card saying that they left overnight abruptly and they're quit the show. So I look, this is the same production company that does Love is Blind. We've all heard all the stories about Love is Blind, all the former contestants there that have made allegations against the show and how they're treated. And I have to believe that whatever's going on Love is Blind is very similar to what's going on in the Ultimatum. They're sister shows, basically. It's same host, same production, like a lot of similarities there. And I think that it's more than likely very similar to the allegations that we've heard there. So I don't know. I mean, it could just be a total, like, nothing against production and just them realizing they don't want to be there. That's possible. Based on the way Vanessa's been alluding to the fact that there's a lot more that we're not seeing, I'd be a little surprised if that was as easy as it was. And the fact that I don't think it would have been so abrupt. I think that they would have gotten a goodbye segment, kind of like last season. I'm forgetting their names of the one who found out they were pregnant and they left the show. Like, we got to see a whole goodbye from them. We got like an exit, a real exit, and we didn't get that here. So
Yeah,
I I think once the contracts expire, I think we're gonna be hearing a lot more.
for sure. I know it is crazy also they both those couples left at the same night. Was it not
Mhm.
like it's kind of crazy. Maybe it wasn't the exact same night, but I feel like the way they edited it made it seem the exact same night.
I think well, they said that they had a meeting off camera, the 4 of them.
Oh.
So I
Oh, so
think, yeah.
they conspired together, okay.
Yeah, I think that it was my guess is that they probably had talked as well, and I mean, like, Dave and Chanel were paired up together,
Oh, that's
so
true.
they probably also had conversations between themselves and then with their original partners, and then they just kinda decided, "Hey, maybe we're all having similar thoughts here. Let's all get together, have a real conversation off camera, and make a decision of what we wanna do."
Yeah. Yeah, no, it
It's
was
very sorry, I
oh,
was gonna say it's very reminiscent to me of on season 13 of The Biggest Loser, there was I think there were 5 or 6 left at the time. It was towards the very end of the season, and basically the cast got wind of this twist that they were gonna do, where they were bringing back, like, potentially bringing back a former contestant who had been eliminated, and they were pissed, and they all basically got together, refused to film, refused to get in uniform like they normally would, And they had a whole episode dedicated to it where they were just like convincing them, like showing one by one, showing each of them their contract and what they agreed to. And it ended up that I think two of them ended up leaving and then like three or four ended up staying. But it was like it kind of reminded me of that a bit, where it was like just this sudden exodus of multiple cast members at once, and yeah, so that was just all I wanted to say about
Yeah, no, that's a good comparison though, because I mean, you just they can meet up and come up with their own plan, which we saw here. And what do you think about like the couples reaching out to their previous partner like during the trial marriage period? Like, do you think that should be allowed? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
that. I think to a certain degree, maybe like hmm. The way that I think of it is like I think in some ways, like if I'm a producer on the show, do I want them doing that? I think not whenever they want to. But I think that like on Temptation Island, for example, they get little videos every week of what their partner that they came in with is doing. And that's a very similar like show with, kind of certain differences. But that always adds to the drama because then, like, once you know a little bit of what they're doing, it makes so much paranoia. And it's great for the show because then, on some degree, it's like, oh my God, well, my partner's taking full advantage of this experience. I should be too. And then they go, like, hook up with someone that night. Or, like, then it makes somebody, oh my God, I've been doing all this and it looks like my partner's been fully faithful to me. I feel like an asshole. And then, like, it just makes you spiral. So I think that, like, there's certain times where, yeah, it adds to the show in a positive way for them to reach out to their partner and have some idea what's going on. But I think, like, just being able to do it whenever you want probably makes you a little bit less inclined to actually, like, go full force, like, into this experience and fully immerse yourself in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there should be a limit to it, but I don't think it should be like totally banned because anyone's gonna get around that. Like if they ban it, like they're not gonna fully be able to enforce that. I feel like so.
That's true because 'cause they're in the same complex, like, this is different than Temptation Island where, like, they're in 2 separate villas and they don't have their phones, so they can fully control how often they communicate with them, whereas here it's a little bit different because, like, they're not being filmed 24/7, they're in they're in all in the same apartment complex, it seems like, so I think, yeah, that's a little bit different where if you couldn't fully control them in that same way.
Yeah. For sure. So, do you want to chat more about some of the trial couples that we're seeing or trial marriage couples? First up, we have JR and Sandy. So, out of the trial marriage couples, I feel like they have gone the farthest, at least we've seen. They've already kissed. So, that couple, like, obviously they're exploring things like physically attracted to each other. But I feel like for the most part, like it's more of that physical attraction side of it too, and not necessarily the emotional side. Yeah, I mean, we are seeing some conversations happen, and Sandy, even when they had the girls' night, went up to Zaina and be like, "Well, I'm teaching him how to treat you better." Like all these things that I was seeing TikToks about, like that was kind of uncalled for her to say that to Zaina. But overall, what were your thoughts on JR and Sandy so far?
Yeah, that was a weird way of describing their relationship so far. That was an interesting, uh, revisionist history there, but, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's as much as they might try to deny it, it's totally just a physical attraction, and I think it's one of those things where Sandy especially has a lot of issues, it seems like, with Nick not appreciating her fire, like her energy. And because she's so much younger than him, like I think Nick is just kind of in a different phase of his life. And I think that Sandy appreciates being with JR, who's a little bit younger, I guess 5 years younger or so, and just seemingly a lot more similar to Sandy in a lot of ways, I think. And so I don't think that their connection is super deep. I don't think that they're going to end up together if I had to guess based on the first half of these episodes, but I think that there's going to be a lot of drama probably on both sides when they go back to their original couples based on everything that as far as they've gone.
Yeah, I agree, and I think and both their other partners have already like, we've seen be emotional over things like that, so I think overall, like, we're gonna get some more drama after the fact with
And
that.
yeah, and I mean, like, we obviously saw the last episode where Nick came up to their door
Mhm.
and tried to talk to Sandy. That was a big moment. What did you think of that?
Yeah, no, that was crazy. I felt like Nick should not have done that. But he was just spiraling and like not knowing how to handle his emotions and all that and just really needing to see Sandy and like can't obviously in this situation. So it is hard because he doesn't have his trial partner anymore. But I think that he just needs to not not go in those extreme situations.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Nick. I mean, like, nobody should be doing this experience alone. That's not what this is for. And for both Nick and Mariah, I mean, like, Mariah's handling it beautifully. Like, she is a queen. The way that she is just embracing it and taking it in stride. I don't think I would be as calm and seemingly well adjusted as her. But Nick, on the other hand, is just spiraling, and he is just every worst case scenario he's imagining in his mind and fully convincing himself that that's what's happening. And then I think him going up there and not being allowed in, and then when they go to their guys night and talking about everything that's going on, it's just kind of confirming to him that his worst fears could be true. And so he's certainly not handling it well, but I think he'd be the first to admit that. And I think after going home probably for 24 hours, he'll finally be back to himself again and realize, oh my god, what the hell did I just do? So
Yeah.
I do feel for him in this.
Yeah. I do too. And so we'll have to see like what happens once they get back together with Sandy and Nick and after trial marriages, if anything more happens with JR and Sandy, because I feel like maybe more things will happen. But
How much longer after, like, are we gonna go into the next episode and they're, like, immediately going to their original partners? Do we know how much longer they have?
I don't know how long it's been at this point, but I feel like at least one more episode
Yeah,
of the
probably.
trial marriages. But yeah, so we also have Caleb and Arya as a trial couple. So they're very, it seems like originally like very platonic vibes. And then there are conversations that seem to be more deep and kind of sharing more of maybe the attraction there, but not like crossing any boundaries in that sense.
Mhm.
So I respect them both as a couple as this situation. Like I feel like they're doing really well and talking through things really well and just having that open and honest communication. So I think they they're great people. So I hope that they both end up with whoever they want to. But I know Caleb probably and Mariah are still going to stay together, and Arya, not sure what's going to happen with her and Scotty. But overall, I think that they're a couple. Like even though they're not like messy, like it's still nice. It's like refreshing to see. It's like oh, I enjoy watching them because they are like doing this well.
Mhm. No, yeah, like, they remind me of the couples last season, where, like, I'm like, "Okay, they're cute," like, they're but, like, total friendship vibes to me. Like,
Yeah,
I don't see them being together. I think that they're they get along really well. They have a really, I think, good friendship chemistry.
yeah,
But I just don't think that it's like I don't think that they're going to end this together. And I think that their relationship is just hopefully going to help them realize what they want and need from their original partners and make those relationships stronger. But I don't think that they're going to have any temptation to be together at the end of this, really. But I
Yeah.
love them both.
I know. I think it's also funny because when we saw the boys' night and Scotty asking Caleb about the situation, and Scotty was like, "Oh, there's no way that he's like only platonic with
Yeah.
me." But that's because Caleb is a nice guy. Like
Mhm.
Scotty hasn't been around someone like Caleb or around Arya before that's like been respectful. Also, probably those guys were single talking to Arya versus Caleb is in a technically a relationship, even though they're broken up right now. But like he has someone else on his mind that I think that's what Scotty's probably not really processing in that way. Thinking about that. But so that's also nice to see that we're like, well, on the other side of it, we're like, well, no, he is being respectful. Um,
Yeah. No, it's I think that Scotty is talking maybe about himself. Like, he doesn't think that he could have a platonic female relationship, but, some people say it's not possible. I think it is. But
It is. I think so. Well, next up we had Scotty and Zaina as our third trial marriage couple. So at first I actually thought they had a potential to like build some sort of connection there. But now the more that I watch them, I'm more just like, okay, this seems more friendly vibes. And Scotty was getting upset over Zaina not eating breakfast with him. And so just like little things that aren't really totally lining up, and it just seems more like they're not gonna be a match. Well, it already seems that way, but like overall, like they aren't vibing as much as I thought they could be. What about you?
yeah, I think we saw kind of their first rift a bit later on, where, right, like you said, that she was eating breakfast without him, that she was turning down his date ideas. And I think that it seems like little things tend to get to Scotty, and that these kind of non-issues just kind of like add up, I guess, in his mind, and he just kind of explodes a bit. And yeah, I don't think that they're compatible fully. I don't think they have the same communication style. And, I think they probably get along fine as friends, but I don't think that they are compatible for a relationship at all.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, we kind of already talked through our predictions for each person.
Yeah.
So I feel like we'll have to just wait and see with what happens in the next few episodes after more drops come out. But this season is a really good one. So recommend if you haven't started already and you're just listening to a recap in general, recommend watching it because it is some juicy stuff that's happening. So I'm excited to see the rest of the season. And we'll be
Yeah.
back
No, I
next
think
week.
that yeah, no, I think that this season has a lot of potential for the next drop to be pretty dramatic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
it.
Yes, and we'll see if there are any engagements that happen at the end of it too, because they keep on teasing that, like talking about the rings and all that stuff here, where we're like, okay, like it is kind of crazy to think that they could get engaged at the end of this, like get back with your person and then you're engaged. Like that's a wild 6 weeks that you're part of, but it works out sometimes.
Yeah, we will see.
Yes. Well, make sure you're subscribed to listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Let's Chat Reality and find us on TikTok and Instagram. Well, thanks so much for listening, everyone. And we'll talk with y'all again next week.
Bye everyone.